What's up, guys? Thanks for checking us on out. Tobin here with you, and I appreciate you guys checking out the channel. You guys can watch Tobin and Leroy every single weekday on the 560 WQAM channel. Go subscribe over there. Subscribe here, as lots of fun and fodder coming on. I got a UFC 287. I'm heading on down to the Kaseya Center, their new home. I'm still trying to get that name right, but either way, I'm going down there for the press conference, the weigh-in, fight night. Very excited about that, and excited to see what I can bring you guys from that. So I hope you guys can check out some of the fight stuff that I'm going to post. Even if you guys, I know most of you come here for Dolphins and Heat stuff. And speaking of the Dolphins, found this odd and talked a little bit about this on the radio show today, but Cam Newton has come out with a list. He is now willing to be a backup. And he had come out with a list of quarterbacks he's willing to back up. And a lot of these guys apparently were people who had been in his 7-on-7 program, his former All-Stars. So you had Deshaun Watson, you had Justin Fields, you had Lamar. He said he'd be willing to go wherever Lamar Jackson goes. He'll go be Lamar Jackson's backup. And then one of the teams that he mentions is the Miami Dolphins, that he would be a backup for Tua Tagovailoa, that he doesn't feel there are 32 quarterbacks who are better than him in the world. So basically saying he thinks he should still be a starting quarterback. I don't know if that should be the case. I feel like Cam Newton has seen his better days. It was a long time since his MVP. Hasn't played since 2021 and is going to be 34 in May. But I'm a Cam Newton fan. I like Cam Newton. I'm not one of these people that, I thought that it's, the idea that the Carolina Panthers still trying to move on from Cam Newton, still trying to figure out what life should be like after Cam Newton. And sometimes you don't realize that maybe the grass isn't always greener. That being said, should the Dolphins go with him as a backup quarterback? Well, let's just say the obvious. And Cam did point this out. I don't know if people have these people penciled in or not, but the Dolphins do. I mean, Mike White is going to be their backup. Then they got Skylar Thompson after him if Skylar Thompson makes the team this year. I'd assume Mike White is going to, but, we'll see what happens once we get to camp. So would the Dolphins just ice those plans to rush and go get Cam Newton? Probably not. Probably not. I would say very unlikely that they would do that. I don't think that Stephen Ross pops out of bed with his pajamas and is thinking to himself, we got to get Cam Newton. We have to make that happen. But it does lend. One thing I'll say about the Cam Newton thing that I do think is cool for Dolphin fans, and I've maintained this with a lot of the stuff that we've seen with people being attracted to the idea of coming to Miami, is that obviously the Dolphins are building something good here that people seem to want to be a part of. And I do feel like Cam Newton, in a silly sauce world, could you put Cam Newton in the perfect tush-push type of, Jalen Hurts type of scenario where you're like, hey, goal line scenario, QB seek scenario, let's put Cam Newton out there like a battering ram and have him run for yard. Yeah, I mean, you could make him your next Jaworski Lane or something like that. Sure. I think that's definitely, or Lusaka Polite, some kind of fullback type of package for him. I think that'd be the most ideal thing for having a Cam Newton, to have him go out there and start and try and win you games. Yeah, that's not ideal. That's not something that I think you can get from Cam Newton. But man, it would be a fun thing. I mean, you would talk about even more star power to a locker room. But ultimately, look, you do have a quarterback. I will say, does Cam Newton put on that because he has a relationship with Tua? According to Tua's trainer, Nick Hicks, he says that they are. They have a good relationship, and it seems like Cam wants to be, if he's going to be in a backup scenario, wants to be in a QB room with somebody that he personally likes, which, seemingly he does. But, I'm sure the cynic could go out there and say, well, is he waiting on Tua's downfall? There's just something like that. I don't know. I think that when I heard that list from Cam Newton, I think it mostly was like, well, can I go anywhere, make $5 million, $6 million, and enjoy who I work with? And I'd say with the Dolphins, no, I think they got their guy. I think that they have picked who they want to be their backup, which they're going with the local tie aspect of things again. And Mike McDaniel mentioned this at his, I think it was his end of the year press conference. Tua doesn't need a mentor. He doesn't need anybody to guide him in any type of way or anything like that. He is pretty set in his in what he needs as far as knows the offense. He's got a year where he's going into a system he already knows. That's another thing. You're bringing in Cam Newton to having to learn a system. And yeah, I mean, he does come with a lot of star power, and having a backup QB with a big star quality, it can be a distraction. If Tua were to, have a couple of weeks where he stunk up the joint, and should he worry about Cam Newton taking his job? No, certainly. I had this with the Teddy Bridgewater thing last year. I'm like, look, if Tua can't beat out Teddy Bridgewater, then you got the wrong franchise quarterback. And it was very clear in camp right away, like, who the better quarterback was. It wasn't even close. Like, Tua was way better than Teddy Bridgewater was. So I don't think that, like, Tua is going to get outplayed by Cam Newton. But yeah, when you have a star, I still do a radio show down here and hear you guys out there and know that there were people who love Teddy Bridgewater because he's a local guy. He is great in the community. People who are like, no, Teddy Bridgewater's the key. Let's go all behind Teddy Bridgewater. Because, one, there are people who are just either against Tua or just rats off a ship on Tua, or also just like the local tie to it. It's why I think so many people are still in on the Lamar Jackson thing, because it's a local story. It means a lot. High school football means a lot down here. I don't think people realize that. And people see these kids grow up to get to the highest of stages. Like, that means something to a lot of the people in the community down here. And, if a guy could have that full circle of coming back and doing good things for the Miami Dolphins, like, yeah, it's a very, very cool story. I get why people enjoy that stuff. I'm not poo-pooing that. Cam Newton, I just feel like with the age, the wear down, the time away from the sport, unless like he has some workout where he's like, blowing the doors off people, I think that mostly you got to worry about the wear and tear that he's taking. Like, I don't think this isn't like, Geno Smith, who was written off and, finally got in the right scenario and was killing it. No, like, Cam Newton has been to the highest of highs. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been an MVP, Rookie of the Year, broken records. And then it just hit a decline. Like, it just looked like a guy who got worn out. I'm honestly, and I got to say this, I think, he mentions Josh Allen on his list. And Josh Allen's the guy who I do wonder, is he going to have, a Cam Newton type of like fall just from the physical toll that he takes on his game. Like, Cam Newton is physically, when you see him, I've, been around Cam Newton before. I actually randomly saw Cam Newton at an LA Fitness down here. I used to like go to this LA Fitness between producing the morning show and going and hosting 1 to 3 with Leroy. And so I'd go to this LA Fitness, and randomly working there one day was Antonio Brown and Cam Newton. And Cam Newton is a friggin' moose. Like, the dude is a powerhouse. But this sport is brutal. And when you like try to outstrength people and take this, they just accumulate, dude. They do wear you down. Like, these people aren't, as much as it's cool that he does the Superman thing, and that is an unbelievably cool celebration, eventually the hits take their toll. And I do wonder with a guy like Josh Allen, is that gonna he already had the arm thing this year. All those hits, are they gonna catch up with him eventually once you get to year 7, 8? Like, how is that gonna turn out for him? I don't know. But as far as Cam putting the Dolphins on the list, cool story. Doubt it happens. But that dude does feel like he'd be good at the old tush push package.